here. So we have an hour today. So we're going to go till the top of the hour here. And I want to get started with just, hey, 2020. I don't know about for you, but 2020 was quite the roller coaster. I think especially like emotionally, when everything went down in March and April, we had normally done a lot of our training and stuff like that in person and worked with clients here in Austin. And we weren't able to do that anymore. And we had to kind of overnight get all of our stuff online. We created an online membership. We had to get all of our training into courses and like all of that stuff. And Scott says, am I in the correct Zoom? Where's the tie dye? Yeah, I wore a lot of tie dye there last year if you guys were on any of those webinars, but my wife has helped me upgrade my style here recently. So she's picked out all these colored shirts and stuff for me. But 2020 was quite the roller coaster. For a lot of people overnight, sales pipelines froze. And depending on what industry you're in, that may have happened for a month, 2 months, 3 months. You might still be dealing with COVID related objections and businesses trying to figure out what they're trying to do. The other thing that happened too was old messaging you probably realized went out of style. So the emails that maybe you're using to set your appointments, the messaging you're using on your cold calls, obviously you had a whole new set of objections that you might have had to deal with, and a lot of the old messaging went out of style. And you might have been left kind of spinning your wheels, wondering, hey, the stuff that my company gave me, the message templates, the emails, the call tracks, the talk tracks, excuse me, and all of that stuff I was using isn't working anymore. What do we do? And what I want to give you guys today is a couple things. So one, what I want to focus on is how can we avoid being spammers in 2021? So how can we avoid sending those mass blast templated emails and not have our prospects look at us like spammers? The second thing I want to talk about is how we can build meaningful connections with our prospects in 2021. So how can we get a conversation started from a place of value and get prospects to actually want to talk to us? And because I'm a big UFC fan and Conor McGregor's got a fight coming up, I always think of people like this. I use Beyonce as an example sometimes as well, but how do we overcome this reluctance and turn reluctance into confidence? So how can we become more confident in our prospecting and pick up the phone knowing that we know exactly what to say, we know who we're talking to, the problems we're addressing, all of that good stuff. And it looks like a couple of you guys have opinions on what's going to happen in the upcoming fight with Conor. So I'm looking forward to that one. So what we're going to talk about today is three things. So one, we're going to do a quick skill assessment. So I think what's really important in 2021 is figuring out where your strengths, weaknesses, and also opportunities are. The second thing I'm going to share with you, depending on the amount of time that we have, because we've got a lot to cover today, is I want to share 2 to 3 key actionable outbound strategies for success in 2021. So these are things that you're going to be able to take away with you. And then also how to get more support. So make sure to stick around to the end. I'm going to talk about our prospecting bootcamp. But regardless of if you want to participate in that bootcamp and get extra support from me, you're still going to get a ton of value today. So I'll make sure to let you know when I talk about the bootcamp. And if it's not something you're interested in and you're just here for the free stuff, that's all good too. You can just hop off on the call. But I wanted to just give you a warning in advance that I will be talking about how to get more support from me if you want it. And if not, that's totally cool too. All right. So the first thing I want to get into is a quick skill assessment. So I sent out a link to a workbook. Can you guys hit me in the chat? Actually, did anyone not get a copy of that workbook? Looks like some people printed it. It's a thick one. Yeah, it's like 19 pages. Okay. Okay, I'm going to drop a link actually in here real quick for you guys. There you go. I just dropped a link into the chat. So if you want to get that, go ahead and grab it. And if you don't have time to print it out, you'll be good too. But this will at least give you an idea of what we're going through today. Okay, cool. So here's what we're going to do. So in the workbook, the very first thing I want to do with you is figure out what you need in 2021. So hit me in the chat, you guys, if at any point you're confused about something or I'm going to through something too quickly, let me know. And then a few of you have put stuff into the Q&A. I may not be able to get to everything in the Q&A today, but use that Q&A feature in Zoom if you have any specific questions that you need to get answered. All right, so let's go ahead and hop in. So what I want to talk about first is I want to help you plan 2021 and really figure out like where your gaps are. So the first thing we're going to do is a quick exercise. So let me know what your average deal size is. So as we start to fill this out, I'm going to use an example. And this is going to help you figure out like where the gap is from a prospecting standpoint and how many more appointments that you need to be setting on a monthly basis. So as you go through this, I'm going to use a really easy example, and I'm going to use $10,000 as an average deal size. So if you're an SDR or BDR and you're not doing full cycle sales, so you're not doing your own closing, you can still use average deal size because this appointments needed per month is still a KPI that you're going to be measured by. You're just not going to be closing the deals. So write down your average deal size, and I want you to do two things here. So I want you to look at now and then what you need. So let's look at like, what are you closing? If you look at your last 6 months, look at what you're closing per month. And if it makes more sense for you, because maybe you're doing something enterprise, maybe this is like a per quarter, type of thing. But I'm going to use an example. So let's say you're closing 3 deals per month right now. So you're closing 30K per month. So write down where you're at now. So think about maybe the last 3 to 6 months, how the year ended up for you, what Q3 and Q4 looked like, and what are you at right now? And this might be a decimal. It might be 3.5 deals, right? And then I want you to think about like what you need. So again, I'm going to use a really simple example so the math is easy. So let's say that you want to go from closing 3 deals per month to 4 deals per month. So we need to make up this gap of 10K. Right? So think about where you're at. So Brian, where you might get half a deal is, let's say over the course of a quarter, you need to close 10 deals. So 10 deals divided by 3 is 3.33, something like that. So maybe on a monthly basis, you need to close on average 3 1/3 deals, and it averages out to 10 over a quarter. So that's where the decimal comes from, Brian. Are we talking new business or closing orders? So this would be new business. Great question, Lynn. Yeah, so everything I'm going to be talking about today with you guys is outbound prospecting to find new business. So great questions, you guys. Okay, so now let's look at the appointments needed per month. So again, I'm going to use really easy math here. So if we look at where you're at right now, so let's say you're closing 3 deals per month on average, and let's say right now you need to set 10 appointments per month in order to do that. So what you're going to calculate is what the value of one appointment is. So if we take $30,000 and we need to set 10 appointments to close $30,000 to do enough sales calls to close 30,000, we take that 30,000 and divide it by 10. So one appointment is $3,000. And if we look at where we need to be, so one of the things that we need to make up here is we need to make up that $10,000 difference. So if one appointment is worth $3,000 in revenue, you could see that's like 3 to 4 appointments. So that means that we need to be somewhere around 13 to 14 appointments per month. So what we can look at in terms of what's that's costing us is we need to make up the difference of 10K per month, right? So by not setting enough appointments, we're losing out on 10K per month. And then you can multiply by that your commission. And again, I'm just going to use 10%. So that's $1,000 in your pocket per month. Yeah, Ronit says, so appointment equals qualified leads. Yep, you can think of it like that. So how many qualified leads that actually schedule and book an appointment with you? And Laura says, I also need to increase my average deal size as has declined during COVID. So Laura, what I would do is use what just historical trends have showed you in the last 3 to 6 months. What I would love to hear from you guys in the chat So for those of you following along so far, hit me in the chat. What is the difference in the amount of appointments that you're setting right now per month versus where you need to be? What's the difference? So in this example, the difference is 3 to 4 appointments that you need to make up per month. Hit me in the chat. How many more appointments do you need to make up per month right now? Hit me in the chat. This is the time to ask questions if you're lost too. Jay says 10 appointments. Mary says 6, 8, 10 plus, probably 4 appointments, 15, 8. Cool. 10 I'm seeing, 4. So we're kind of all over the place. Okay. So it looks like everyone's good so far. The reason why we want to do this is we need to create like a reason why we need to set 10 appointments. And oftentimes, if we can be like, hey, if I can get an extra appointment per week in this example, I can put an extra $1,000 in my pocket, of commission, or get $10,000 closer to my quota on a monthly basis. Yeah. Okay, cool. We're going to keep going. So let me know, like I said, if you are lost. So if you were looking at this, I'm not going to go through this exercise today, but this activity level planner. So if you're kind of questioning right now, like how many appointments you actually need to do on a monthly basis and how many prospects that you would need to prospect on a monthly basis, this is a really good exercise you can do where you can put your monthly revenue target in, divided by average deal size, and you can get the number of deals you need to close, the number of ops you need, the number of fit intro calls, and then I'll also tell you how many people you need to prospect to on a monthly basis. So I'm going to leave this up to you guys to do as homework after this. If doing this activity level planning was a little bit of a challenge for you to figure out those appointments, definitely recommend doing this exercise. Okay. Yeah, so Todd says may need to consider closing rate, right? May not close every deal. That's right. So, okay, cool. All right. I'm going to reshare this without sound. Cool. I was getting some people. It sounded like you could hear my LinkedIn notifications. Hopefully that wasn't me, but I just took the sound off. That was sharing. Okay, cool. Let's keep moving. All right. So let's look through. Ronet said, I'm very confused by this diagram. Check this out later. You can follow this diagram later if you need help planning the activity level. Ronet, I'm going to send over an email out after this. Why don't you just shoot me an email back if you need some help, okay? Okay, so let's go through the blissful prospecting framework. So what I want to do now is I want to help you kind of assess where your strengths and weaknesses are. So when we look at this, what we want to do here is a couple of things. So I want to plot out kind of our framework and the different areas, like the 10,000-foot view of outbound prospecting and how you do it. And then we're going to grade yourself in each of these areas, and we're going to try to go pretty quick here. All right, so the first bucket is identify. And identify, this is our ability to identify a good fit opportunity. So there's 2 parts to this. And we're going to start with ICPs and personas. So ideal client profiles, these are the companies that make up a good fit for you, and then also reaching out to the right people. So what we're going to do right now, you're going to want to write these down, is we're going to grade ourselves in each one of these areas, okay? And we're going to grade ourselves on a scale of 1 to 3. 3 is going to be best. 2 is going to be worst. So with ICPs and personas, a 3 would be, I know exactly who I'm going to reach out to. I know exactly what companies are a good fit. And when I go to identify those companies, so Ronan, ICP stands for Ideal Client Profile, right? So the best case scenario is you know exactly what companies are a good fit and you know exactly what job titles to reach out to. That's a 3. 2 is, I think I kind of have a good idea of who's a good fit for this, but I kind of wing it sometimes. I don't really know exactly who to reach out to all the time, or maybe I don't know what industries are the best fit for what I'm selling. 1 is I have no idea. I kind of spray and pray and mass blast. I just upload a big list. And if they fit the job title, I just send them a mass blast email. So rate yourself 1 to 3, ICPs and personas. Is this something that you're really good at? You know exactly who you're targeting, or are you kind of lost when it comes to who's the best fit? Okay, cool. And you don't need to put your score in the chat if you guys don't want to at this point. So just make sure to write it down. All right, we're going to keep moving. So tools and workflow. So tools and workflow are, I use a sales engagement platform. That's 3. So maybe you use SalesLoft, Outreach, maybe you use Apollo, whatever it might be. I use a sales engagement platform and I definitely know my way around it. So I'm able to sequence properly. I'm able to create activities in there. I don't get bogged down throughout my day trying to figure out how to use my tools. Number 2 is, you know what? I have a sales engagement tool and something that helps me sequence, but I'm kind of lost when I go in there. I know how to set up like a sequence, but beyond that, I don't really know about how to do anything else. And a 1 is I don't use any tools for prospecting. So go ahead and rate yourself on a 1 to 3 tools and workflow. So again, this is the identify bucket here. So this is our ability to identify and be laser targeted with who we're reaching out to. All right, so next we have engage. So engage is our ability to start a conversation. So this is a couple areas. So the first one is cold email. All right, so give yourself a 3 if you have the ability to set cold emails and you have a 5+% response rate to your cold emails. And Luisa says, does the tool have to be something that helps with email outreach prospecting or just something as simple as a CRM? So if your CRM helps you with prospecting, Luisa, that counts. But if you have no tools that you can use to help with prospecting, give yourself a 1 there. Okay, so with cold email, 3 is I send cold emails and I have a 5% plus response rate. That's a 3. Yep. 5%. 5% plus. 2 with cold email is I send cold emails, like I have my templates, but my response rates are lower than 5%. And 1 is I don't really have any cold email templates or anything like that I'm using. I kind of wing it every time I go to cold email someone. So your response rates are probably lower than 5% and you kind of wing it. You don't really have any idea of like what kind of templates you would send or anything like that. So 3 is 5+% response rate. 2 is less than 5%. 1 is I kind of wing it every time. I don't even have templates that I work with. I kind of rewrite a new email every time I go to reach out to someone. Okay. We're going to keep moving, you guys, because I want to make sure to give you guys some good content today, too. Cold calling. So 3 is I feel very comfortable cold calling. I have a talk track in place, and I'm able to set appointments over the phone. 2 is I make cold calls, but I don't really have a talk track. I don't really feel that comfortable making them. I might deal with a little bit of call reluctance. And it's kind of hit or miss. Sometimes I'm able to get appointments, but I'm not super confident in like what I'm saying and if it's the right thing or the questions that I'm asking. And then a 1 when it comes to cold calling is I don't make cold calls. It could be because I don't think that they work or they haven't worked for me in the past, or I might have call reluctance. So I might be a little bit scared maybe to pick up the phone. It's all right, Grace, if you give yourself a 0. Yeah, so Anthony, your challenge is connecting. So I wouldn't necessarily grade yourself on that. Yeah, so if you connect and you're strong there, give yourself a 2 or a 3. All right, we're going to keep moving, you guys. So sequencing. So with sequencing, a 3 is I have sequences in place for every persona and ideal client profile that I reach out to. So if you reach out to, let's say, marketing departments and sales departments, you have a sequence for both of those different types of personas, along with executive, personas like VPs or C levels, and you have different sequences for more users of your product or service or whatever it might be. So you got a sequence for every scenario. That's a 3. 2 is I have a few sequences that I use, but there's quite a few personas I reach out to that I haven't developed out full sequences for yet. And 1 is I don't really have any sequences built. So I might have a couple email templates and things that I use, but I don't really know what to do when it comes to building out a sequence. Yeah, so Mohammed, you have a question here that we'll get to. Make sure to drop that in the Q&A. Yeah, so Ronit says, so referencing appointments, you mean gaining the next step in the sales cycle, which could be a questionnaire. Yeah, so Ronit, so cold email, it's like I get a response to this that is favorable, right? So maybe that's an appointment, maybe that's them filling out a questionnaire, whatever it might be. So sequence and cadence, Ellis, great question. So sequences are the same as cadences. I have a multi-channel, multi-touch sequence or cadence in place where I combine email, phone, LinkedIn, whatever it might be, and I'm able to use it to get a hold of people. One being the worst, like I said, where I don't have any sequencing really in place at all. Great questions, you guys. Okay, we're going to keep rolling. And then lastly, on this end, we have convert. And this is your ability to secure a meeting and then also your ability to be productive. So from a productivity standpoint, grade yourself on a 1 to 3 scale as well. So 3 is I'm very productive. I know exactly how to plan my week. When I block off time to make cold calls, I make them. 2 is, I kind of wing it a little bit every week. I'm fairly productive. 1 is I don't plan my week at all. I just kind of go whenever things are planned, I do it. If something comes up, I take that, but I kind of wing my week is 1. Yep. So Max asks sequences can be inclusive of cold emails. Correct. Yep. So productivity. 3 is I know how to make a killer plan for my week and execute on it. 2 is maybe I'm pretty good at planning, but the execution's a little tough. 1 is I don't plan really my week at all. I just kind of wing it, and that sort of thing. So grade yourself on a scale of 1 to 3 there. And we got 2 more. So where we're going to spend some time today is this empathy piece. So what connects your ability to identify a good fit opportunity and to start a conversation with them is your ability to speak in the prospect's language. So empathy is your knowledge of the prospect's problems. So 3 is I can speak in the prospect's language. So I can speak as if I'm the prospect. And Angela says that you plan for the week ahead on Sunday night. That's great. So you might give yourself a 3 then, it sounds like. So with empathy, though, 3 is I can speak as if I'm the prospect. That's how well I know them and their priorities and their problems. 2 is, you know what, I have a hunch over what their problems might be, but I'm not sure if it's in the right language. And 1 is I don't really know what my prospects' problems are or how they talk about their problems. So 1 to 3. All right. And then we have objections. So between engage and convert, so your ability to start a conversation but then secure a meeting, usually what we have to do along the way is handle objections. So with objections, 3 is I have a response to every type of objection, and I feel very comfortable objection handling when I'm, let's say, making a cold call. So number 2 is, you know what, like I get objections and I feel all right handling them, but it doesn't always go well. Either I don't feel comfortable necessarily doing it or it doesn't really work to turn it around and schedule a meeting. And 1 is I'm frightened when I get objections and I don't really have a way of handling my most common objections. So 3, I feel very comfortable handling objections. It works really well for me. I have those responses in place. 2 is I'm a little bit uncomfortable. I don't have responses for everything. And 1 is I'm frightened of objections. And Fadi asked, will I be sending out a recording? Yep, I'll definitely be doing that. Cool. And Jay says it depends on how hard they object. Yeah, so just give yourself a score. You guys are just rating yourselves here. Okay. So what we want to do here is let's go ahead and pause. Okay. So make sure that you have yourself scored in each of these categories, and this is going to help us focus for today. So the next thing that we're going to do here, because I don't see any more questions, is I want you to think about these 2 questions here. So given your assessment of yourself, how repeatable is your prospecting process? This is a totally subjective thing for you. What you're currently doing right now, based on how you assess yourself, how repeatable do you feel it is? And this next part, I'd love for you to share in the chat. So based on what you've already done, so Graham asked, what do you mean by repeatable? So what I mean by repeatable is I have something that I know works for me to set appointments, and I can do it over and over again, and I can get a predictable result. So if I need to set 5 more appointments per month, that was my goal. I know exactly how I need to do that. And I can do that month after month after month. That's repeatability. All right. So I'd love to hear in the chat though, are there changes that you already know that you need to make based on doing this assessment in 2021? Drop it in the chat. What are some things that you already know that you need to get better at and make a change with? Drop it in the chat and let me know. Yeah, Kayla says updating messaging. Yeah, needing a plan. Yeah, more personas on your sequences, just more volume, Jay says. Additional calls per day, Lynn says. Time blocking, frequency. Yeah, working on sequencing, simplified value prop. Cool. Yeah, keep dropping it in the chat. Yep, Serenity. Definitely reach out to me, Serenity. Yeah, getting through the clutter, better weekly planning, crisper and shorter messaging, implement cold calling, Louisa says. Cool. Okay, we're going to keep moving, you guys. This is awesome. Keep dropping it in. What are 3 changes that you already know that you need to make? Yeah, keep dropping it in. This is great, you guys. Yeah, better email subject lines. Okay, cool. So, what I want to go over with you guys today is we're not going to have time to cover everything. So, we're going to cover this empathy piece. And I want to ask you guys before we hop off in about 30 minutes, if we had to pick only one topic for today to cover between cold calling and objections, drop a 1 or a 2 in the chat. Let me know which one you prefer to cover. A lot of ones. Okay, we'll chat cold calling with you guys next. Okay. All right. So before we do that, I talked about empathy, and I have an exercise because I'm not going to be able to cover all of these areas today, like I said. So I'm going to focus on some ones just to give you kind of a preview of how it can help. So the first activity I want to do with you here is what I call the prospect path. Okay. And what this is going to help us do is a couple different things. So I talked about empathy. And let me know, you guys can see the slides on my screen. Let me know in the chat. You guys good? Okay, cool. So this empathy piece is going to set up your messaging. So a lot of people want to talk about cold calling and sequencing and how to write better cold emails, but if we don't know who our prospects are and their problems, that becomes really tough. So there's 3 key principles that I want to cover with you here in the next exercise. One is, how do we understand the top priorities and like the day-to-day of our prospects so we can speak in their language? How do we define our prospect's current state, and how do we define their desired and undesired future state? Okay, so we're going to do this quick exercise. So it's going to be really, really helpful for you so that we can figure out who our prospects are and the language that they talk. And this is going to be something you can use to improve your emails. So I call this the prospect path. So what we want to do here with the prospect path is a couple things. So one, and we're going to do an exercise around this here in a second, is if we look at this chart here, what we have on this line on the y-axis is results. And then what we have on the x-axis is time. So we have our prospects in their current state here. And what we need to understand about their current state is we need to understand their priorities and the problems that they're having. So what are they working on right now? And what are the problems that they're having related to the solution that we sell? So whether that's a product, software that we're selling, or some sort of service, whatever it might be, we want to talk about their priorities and problems. And then we want to distinguish between 2 things, because essentially what we're doing in sales is 2 things. Undesired, oops, future state. My bad, you guys. I'm getting back into the swing of things with New Year. I'm a little rusty with this one. So essentially what we're doing here is when we're selling something, we are helping prospects to a desired future state, or we're helping them avoid an undesired future state. So, Amel, you asked, how would you know that if you don't need to meet with them and discuss their needs? We're going to talk about that here in a second. So essentially what we're doing is we're taking their current state, how are they currently doing things, and we're going to talk about how we can help them to a desired future state. So that's the answer to things are going great, right? What's that nirvana state for a prospect? So I sell to VPs of sales. The nirvana state for them is that, hey, everyone's hitting their quota, right? Our reps love picking up the phone and making cold calls. And then we have undesired future state. So what are the things that are not so great? So for a VP of sales, that would be attrition, right? We're losing people. We're having trouble recruiting because people don't, aren't finding success over the phone, that sort of stuff. So that's the prospect path. So the first exercise that we're going to do here is let's take an example prospect. So again, if you guys kind of follow along here, I'll just throw VP of sales in. So what we want to do here, why don't you drop in an example persona? So drop into the chat, who do you sell to? Let's pick a job title. Let's pick a persona. So VP of digital marketing, a CMO. Here, let's actually use a CMO as an example as well. Senior scientist, VP of engineering. Very good. Okay, so I'm going to use a CMO as an example, but you guys can go in and fill in the rest of this exercise. Let's think about like what their top priorities are. So when we look at like a chief marketing officer, for example, and it kind of depends on the company, but let's think about what the top priorities are for your persona. So typically at the executive level, it's something connected to revenue, profit, or reducing risk. So a CMO, one of the big things that they might be focused on, depending on the company, is branding. Right? So branding, that could be content, marketing collateral, and just overall awareness. Another big focus might be driving leads for sales. Then another big focus might be around conversion of those leads. So what we want to think about here is, and it looks like there's a lot of HR folks as well. So think about what are the top priorities of those personas? What are the problems? So what are the problems getting in the way of their top priorities? So hit me in the chat. What are some of the problems getting in the way of your personas that you're reaching out to, these job titles? What are some of the top problems getting in the way of their top priorities? Yeah, so bandwidth, time, bad data, market share, budget. Yep, lack of time. So maybe for a CMO, it's working with limited resources, right? Maybe it's lack of data and insights into their pipeline. All right, so think about those problems. So we have website average time spent, hung up calls, lack of confidence, tight timelines, don't want to change, bad data. Yeah. So now let's look at the desired future state. So again, current state, what we need to understand is how they're currently getting things done and what their problems are. And then we could look at what are they trying to get done and what are they trying to avoid. Yeah, what did I write regarding pipeline? So lack of data and insights into pipeline. So if you're trying to drive more leads and drive the conversion of those leads, if I don't have really good data into how my leads are converting, that might be a problem. I'm just giving you guys some examples here. So a desired future state is that maybe, hey, we generate enough leads to hit revenue targets. And then maybe the other one is sales loves our leads. Yeah, Lyle says it's a little hard to read your writing. My bad. I'll work on writing a little neater here. So generating enough leads to hit revenue targets and sales loves our leads. So let's think about an undesired future state for your prospects. Yeah, Grace, you can definitely send this recording. I'm going to send it out to you guys afterwards. So an undesired future state might be the opposite of these things. So not generating enough leads. Sales hates our leads, right? So think about what is the desired future state of your prospects? What do they really, really want? And what are they trying to avoid? Hit me in the chat real quick. What are some of the things that you feel like your prospects are trying to avoid? Hit me in the chat. And then we're going to keep moving here. They're trying to avoid you, Tara says. So employee turnover, Grace says. Errors in calculations. Tony says buying my shit. So this is why we have to connect our stuff that we're selling. We have to connect it to their problems and what they're trying to accomplish and what they're trying to avoid. Yeah, spend money for projects that don't generate ROI, Boris says. Yeah, lots of really good stuff here, you guys. Okay, we're going to keep moving. All right, good stuff. So keep dropping that into the chat as we're shifting here. So the next exercise, we're not going to have time for. So we're not going to get a chance to get to this. And again, I'll send out some resources at the end of this when we send out the recording later today so that you guys have it. But we're going to have to skip this one here. So now that we have the prospect path, let's get back to the slides. So once we understand their top priorities in the day-to-day, that helps us define the prospect's current state and then the undesired future state. And the reason why this is super important is these are the things that we need to talk to, let's say, when we're doing cold calling. And this is something that Nicole, I mentioned the prospecting bootcamp that I'll talk about here in a few minutes. Nicole Ramirez was a bootcamp participant. This is something that she worked on a lot. She sells insurance, right? A really competitive, market. And one of the things that she found worked really well for her was doing this exercise and putting herself in the shoes of the prospect to increase her response rates. So that's something that was a really big takeaway. So let's keep moving. So I want to give you guys some stuff around cold calling. So again, I'm not going to have time to go over all the different parts that you guys graded yourself on today. I got time to go through one more. And at the end, I'm going to tell you how you can get some more support on the rest of the stuff here. But let's get to cold calling. And Tony loves cold calling. I love cold calling too. So one of the big keys is to minimize call reluctance, right? To pattern interrupt, and then to make it permission based. So one of the things that Jordan Greek, so he was another participant in one of our boot camps. One of the things that he really enjoyed about the framework that I'm about to show you is that it felt really authentic to him. So I don't know if you guys have ever felt this, but when you're prospecting and you don't feel like authentic and you feel super salesy, I don't know about you, that doesn't make me very confident in what I'm saying. So I want to talk to you about how to do the opposite of being salesy. And really where I want to spend some time here is going into this framework of how we talk to target contacts. All right, so before we dig into this, hit me in the chat. What's your biggest challenge with cold calling right now, personally for you? Hit me in the chat. What's your, personally, what's your biggest challenge with cold calling? Yeah, reaching people not answering, connection rate. People are working from home, finding numbers, voicemails, reaching a decision maker, sounding too salesy, Kelsey says, simplifying the message, all really good stuff. Yeah, the opening line, Lauren says. Okay, cool. So I'm going to hustle through this part. So, and again, we actually have talk tracks and things like that that I can share with you in the boot camp, but I want to give you kind of the TLDR of cold calling, give you something actionable that you can start using. So we break up the cold call into 3 parts. So there's an intro, there's a hook, and then there's your close. So there's a couple things that are really, really important in the intro. One is you want to remove the surprise. Always, always, always introduce yourself at the top of the call. Hey, John, this is Jason with Blissful Prospecting. So always remove the surprise. Share your first name, and then the full name of your company. So remove the surprise. That's the very, very first thing that prospects are thinking about is who is this and why are you calling? So remove the surprise. And then we're going to use a permission based opener. So permission based opener has three parts. So there's an empathize part to this. There's a time ask. And then there is a permission. All right. So that sounds something like this. And this works like a charm. 9 out of 10 times that I do this and the people that I coach do this, the prospect usually says, yeah, go ahead. So this is what the beginning of the cold call could sound like. So on the next cold calls you're making today or later this week. Hey, Tony, this is Jason with Blissful Prospecting. Empathize. I know I probably caught you in the middle of something, so I'm talking to what I think is on their mind or what they might be into. And then I'm going to make a request for time. But I was wondering, do you have 30 seconds so I could tell you why I'm calling? And then you could let me know if you want to keep chatting. That's the permission-based piece. So I'm going to empathize. I'm going to give a specific request of time, and then I'm going to ask for permission. So Sandler selling, they call this the upfront contract, right? Jamie says this works 9 out of 10 times for her. Yeah, works really, really well. So you can do all kinds of different variations of this, but I recommend keeping it super simple. Hey, this is Jason with Blissful Prospecting. Hey, I know I caught you in the middle of something here, but do you have a minute? I could tell you why I'm calling, and then you can let me know if you want to keep chatting. So Lisa, you said, have I caught you at a bad time? That's something you could also use. I find that that tends to get a little overused and people aren't quite as responsive to it. But if it works for you, Lisa, definitely keep doing it. So that's a really simple thing that you can do. So when I call people in the morning, I might say something like, hey, Jamie, I know I caught you in the morning here and you probably got a ton of meetings scheduled for later today. So I'll make it quick. Do you have 30 seconds? You can tell me why, I can tell you why I'm calling and you can let me know if you want to keep chatting. So it's really important that you emphasize and have good tonality here as well. Hey, I know I probably caught you in the middle of something, but do you have 30 seconds? I could tell you why I'm calling, and then you can let me know when you keep chatting. There you go. So that's how you can use that permission-based opener. So Ed says, doesn't this set up a way out? It does. So by giving the prospect autonomy and allowing them to opt into the call, people are more likely to say yes to something when they have a choice versus feeling like they have to. So if you add a permission-based element to this, just try it. So Ed, try it on your next 10 cold calls and see what happens. And if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. But I find that this is a really effective technique. And then the next part, we don't have time to necessarily get into today, is like the reply method structure. So the reply method looks something like this. So the R stands for relevant results. The E stands for empathy. The P stands for personalization. And by the way, I'm going to make sure to get you guys the content today before 11, but I will stay extra. So anyone that wants to stay on extra, I can stay on for probably 10 or 15 minutes after the hour. So just keep that in mind. If you guys want some more content and have some more questions, I'm going to stay over. But if you got to leave in 10 minutes, I totally understand that as well. So relevant results, empathy, and personalization, that's what the message would cover. And usually I go in reverse order. So I start with personalization, empathy, and talk about a challenge. And then I share relevant results. So what you can do here is, so the person says, yeah, you got 30 seconds, Jason. So I say, hey, the reason I was calling is personalization. I was on your LinkedIn profile or I was doing research on your website and noticed this. Empathy piece is a lot of times when I talk to CMOs, and let me grab that sheet so you guys can see how this fits into the prospect path. So I'm just going to use this. I'm going to say, hey, yeah, I'm actually talking to a lot of CMOs. And one thing that I hear is that, especially with teams your size, is sometimes they have limited resources. And because they don't have the data to like really get insights into their pipeline, it gets in the way of them driving conversion on their leads. And one thing they're really trying to avoid is either not generating enough leads or having low conversion rates on their leads and sales not liking them. So I'm working in these problems and the undesired future state. That's the empathy piece here. And then the relevant results is one of the ways that we're helping other marketing teams like yours is not only generate enough leads, but make it to where sales actually loves getting their leads and they're able to convert a higher percentage of them. So I'm flipping it, right? So the relevant results, that's the desired future state, the fixing of the undesired future state or the fixing of the problem. And then what I can do is have another permission-based element here where I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to say, hey, is it cool if I ask you 2 or 3 questions to see if this might be relevant for you? And that's where I'm going to go into what I call question stacking. And we don't have enough time to get into this today. Like usual, I overplanned. So I put into that worksheet probably 2 hours of content, and we had an hour today, so that's my bad. I always think that I can cover a lot more than I actually can. So question stacking, we don't have a time to get into today, but I'm going to ask for permission, say, hey, is it cool if I ask 2 or 3 questions? And that's where I can ask my questions. And then what's going to connect the hook to the close is I'm going to summarize. So in this CMO example, I might ask, hey, what kind of tools are you guys using to track like your leads right now? Or hey, are you guys using HubSpot or Pardot or whatever it might be? So I get them to kind of ask the questions, then I summarize. And then I'm going to get agreement. So I'm going to summarize what they said. So, hey, it sounds like you're having challenges getting like insights into your pipeline. And you're not as happy as you would like with the leads that you're sending over to sales. Did I miss anything? And I'm going to get them to tell me if I missed anything. And then I can schedule time with the prospect. And then I'm going to do what I call a triple confirmation. So, hey, did I miss anything? And let's say the prospect says, no, like, sounds like you got everything there. Well, awesome. Do you have your calendar handy? I'd love to schedule some time and share with you ideas on how other marketing teams at similar size companies are sort of overcoming this challenge of sales either not liking their leads or not being able to convert them, and how they're hitting their leads targets this year. And then I'm going to get them to confirm the calendar invite on the call. So once we find a time that works for them to meet, I'm going to say, hey, so if you don't mind, would you go ahead and open up your email? I'm going to send you a calendar invite right now. Just so I know that I got the right email address, would you mind just accepting that calendar invite so I know that we're good to go and I wait for them on the call to do that? I'm going to confirm the agenda. So I'm going to repeat back what I summarized again. So I'm going to say, hey, so my understanding again is you're using tools like A, B, and C, and one of the big challenges you're having is this. So I definitely want to make sure to cover that in the call. Is there anything else that you want to make sure to take away? Cool. So I'm going to confirm the agenda. I'm going to make it about them. Yeah. So Ronit says, how do you know the size of their team? Well, you should know based on LinkedIn. Like you should be able to look on LinkedIn and see how many people they have in their marketing department. Yeah. Okay. Cool. We're going to keep rolling. And then the third thing you want to confirm is a confirmation email. So you're going to say, hey, so I'm actually going to send you an email the day before we meet. And it's going to be confirming all of the details for the meeting. You might just go ahead and responding to that when you get it. Cool. All right. Everyone good? This is kind of the generic run through of like the cold calling, what that framework looks like. Brian says this was great. Cool. What's your biggest takeaway so far? I'd love to hear in the chat. What are you taking away so far? Like, what's actionable for you? What do you feel like you've taken away so far that you need to like personally work on? And we'll keep moving here. Yeah, empathy piece. Yeah, speaking to the prospect's problems, empathy in the messaging. Cool. Yeah, so for those of you that got to run, there's going to be a recording afterwards. Cool. Cold calling piece. Sweet. Okay. So we're going to get back to the slides, you guys. All right. Sweet. How does this model differ for cold email? Scott says it's very similar, but I'm actually going to cover some things on how you guys can get some support in that area. So we got 5 minutes. What I'm going to do here, just for the people that need to take off in a couple minutes, I'm going to talk about the prospecting boot camp. So go ahead and stick around. I'm going to stick around for another 10 or 15 minutes and just kind of do Q&A with you guys and help you out. But I want to get to the boot camp right now and just tell you how you can get some extra support from me. And again, if this is not something you're interested in, kind of ignore this part, or you can hop off the call at this time if you're done as well. Okay, cool. So there's a couple things that I would think about here with the boot camp. I appreciate that, Grace. Um, so what I would think about is like, what would a great next 3 months look like for you? And specifically, let me know in the chat, which of the three areas would you like to get better at in the next 3 months? So when you look at the identify, engage, convert, or maybe it's something specific in here, let me know in the chat, which one specifically would you like to get better at in the next 3 months? And if you're a sales leader on this too, maybe it's your team. Yeah, engage. Yeah, Grace Judson says, well, everything. So engage, engage. Yeah, let me know. Is there something specific around? Is it cold email? Is it cold calling? Is it sequencing? Yeah, we have ICPs to the team, Kelsey says. Yeah, what specifically do you want to get better at, or do you want your team to get better at over the next 3 months? Cool. Yeah, all of the above. I know there's a lot here, and part of what we help you do is prioritize, the top areas to focus on. Yeah, LinkedIn messaging. Does the email messaging convert? Yep, cold emails. Cool. So what we work on in the boot camp is how do we get the areas that you gave yourself or your team a 1 and 2? How do we get those to like a 2 and a 3? That's what the boot camp is for. And we typically try to focus on like 1 or 2 of those areas. And there's 3 parts to it. So you get lifetime access to on-demand content. So there's a whole course that I can show you here in a second that you get lifetime access to. And for those of you that got to take off, I really appreciate you coming on. Look for an email later today with the replay. So you get access to lifetime on-demand content, which I'll show you. I'm constantly adding stuff to it. You get 6 weeks of group coaching calls, and you also get access to like a playbook. So there's like scripts, worksheets, templates, all that good stuff. And this is what the 6 weeks look like. So in week 1, the content's focused on how do we find the perfect fit prospect. So that's your ideal client profiles, your personas. That's the empathy piece that I've been talking about a lot today. Week 2, we talk about the reply method. So one of the things that you guys have been asking about is, well, how does this translate into email? And I have a whole framework around email called the reply method, but this is essentially the messaging framework that drives your sequencing. So we spend a week on sequencing. We spend a week on cold calling. We spend a week on like, how do we deflate objections and handle those? And then how do you ultimately scale this? So that's what we cover in the 6 weeks. So everything from the identify, engage, and convert. And there's a couple different options. So I'll drop the link here into the chat for you guys. And let me do that real quick. Sweet. Okay, cool. So there's the link. Just dropped it into the chat for you. So if you want more support beyond like what you got today, and there's a bunch of free stuff on our website too. So if you guys just want the free stuff, that's good. But if you want more support, here's how the bootcamp works. So it's $999 one time. So a lot of people get their companies to pay for this kind of stuff. And then we also have a payment option. It's 2 payments of $550. And if you have a team and you want some like bulk discounting and that sort of stuff, definitely reach out to me afterwards. But we have a coupon that's good for $100 off because we're starting another group up next week. So if you use the code JBay7, and I'll drop that into the chat as well. So if you do JBay7, when you click on enroll now, so if you go to that page that I just sent out to everyone and you click on enroll and use that coupon code, you'll get $100 off. So that's it in terms of like the boot camp. And it looks like there's like over 100 of you guys still hanging around. So what I want to know is what questions do you guys have over the next couple of minutes? For those of you that are interested in the boot camp, do you have any questions that I could help you with right now? Yeah, Hugus, I think is your name. You said how many hours per day? So what I would recommend is the calls are 90 minutes. So it's one 90-minute call per week. And then I recommend you spending 2 or 3 hours on your own time. And that's pretty flexible, consuming the course content. Yeah, any other questions? on how the boot camp works or what you'll be getting, anything else that you want to see or have questions around or anything like that. I'll give you guys a minute here. These are one-on-one. These are group calls. So these are pretty small group calls typically. There might be 20, 30 people tops usually on these calls, but it's enough for you to get your individual questions answered. And then you also get access to the content. So they are group calls. Big benefit of that is you get to like actually network with other reps at different companies selling all kinds of different stuff. So there's a community that we actually build where you can like network and stuff like that with other reps. So we do it in a group setting. Lehman Hopper, you said, what time are the calls? So we do them every Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. Central, and then we do them Thursday at 9 a.m. Central Time. So we run them every week. There's 2 calls per week. You can just kind of pick and choose which one works better for you. Okay. Yeah, option number 2, Rajan, is lifetime as well. So I'm not going to do this thing where you like have to keep paying me to get access to the content. So you pay one time, you get lifetime access to the course. And one of the things I can show you guys too that I figured I'd open up is like what the course looks like. So you get access to this dashboard and like, so cold calling, for example, there's like a ton of different lessons in here. And then everything has like a worksheet with it. There's cold call breakdowns, so you can listen to other reps that I've coached make cold calls. There's bonus lessons in here from like webinars and like all kinds of stuff that we do there. There's lessons on objection handling. So there's like videos and stuff that I just added a bunch of these bonuses here in the last couple of weeks, actually, that you'll get lifetime access to. Pascal, you asked, I love your content, everything you make. For the call training, only problem is to translate into a different language. That's something I'm not equipped to do with you guys, actually. So if you're prospecting into people and you're not talking to them in English, unfortunately, I don't speak any other languages, so I'm not the guy to help you with that, unfortunately. Okay, cool. So before we get into some other questions that you guys have, does anyone else have any questions on the boot camp or anything else like that that I can help you with? I'll just give a couple seconds here for anyone to drop that in the chat. Otherwise, we'll just kind of get into stuff that you guys want to talk about that I can help with. Cool. Okay, so Ronit, you want to go over the activity planner. So I can actually do that with you guys. Okay, so while I'm pulling that up, is there anything else? Just drop it into the chat so I can see it. Don't worry about the Q&A. Is there any other questions that any of you guys have that you want to cover here in the next couple minutes? Before we take off and run it, I'll get to yours first. So with the activity level planner, what you're doing here is this is actually going to help you. Yeah, later, Brian. Thanks for coming on, man. So what this is going to help you do is figure out like how many prospects that you need to like prospect to on a monthly basis. So Ronan, it might look something like this. So let's say that your monthly revenue target, again, I'm going to use really easy math. Let's say it's $100,000. And let's say your average deal size is $25,000. So that means you need to close 4 deals per month. So $100,000, that's your monthly revenue target, $25,000 average deal size. We divide this by that, 4 deals. So the next things that we need to pull to figure out like how many people we need to reach out to on a monthly basis is we need to look at like conversion rates. So with our conversion rates, this is the deals to ops. So this is your closing percentage. So once you get an opportunity, so you find out that there might be a good fit here and you actually engage with a prospect through the sales process, what's your closing rate? And I'm just gonna, again, I'm gonna use easy math here. So let's say it's 50%. So once something becomes an opportunity, your closing rate's 50%. And then we look at what's the rate between the number of opportunity calls we generate from our is this a fit call. So the fit calls, that's like your introductory call. That's like your discovery call. Yeah, you bet, Kayla. Thanks for coming. So the way that this works is, let's say it's 25%. So that means that we need to do 4 introductory calls to generate an opportunity. And once we get an opportunity, we close 50% of those into a deal. Yeah, you bet, Andrea. So the next thing we look at is the percentage of fit calls that come from the number of people that we prospect to. So let's say that's 10%. So what that means is that if we reach out to 100 prospects, 10% of them, 10 out of 100, will turn into an introductory call. So what we can start doing here is we can look at the number of opportunities that we need to generate on a monthly basis and then the number of fit calls that we need. So I kind of put this in here to help you with the math. So if you take A divided by B, you get the number of opportunities that you need on a monthly basis. So if we take 4 deals divided by 50%, that's 8 ops. So that means we need to generate 8 opportunities on a monthly basis. To find the number of fit calls or introductory calls that we need to do, we take A divided by B divided by C. So we already did A divided by B, so 8. Now we divide it by the number of fit calls. So we take 8 divided by 25%, which if I'm not a mathematician, but if I did my math correctly, that's 32. So that means I need to do 32 fit calls per month or 8 per week to hit my target. And then the number of prospects needed, I take A divided by B divided by C divided by D. So I take this number and then divide it by D. So that means 320. So if you look at this math, Rohit, or Ronit, I think was your name. Is it Ronit? Yeah, Ronit. This will tell you how many new prospects you need to prospect to on a monthly basis. So again, if we divided that by 4, we would get 80 per week. So that means you need to sequence 80 people per week. The reason why I'm doing this again, you guys, is that a lot of people don't know how many people they need to reach out to hit their appointment target. So if you found out that you need to generate an extra 5 appointments per month, you need to know how many prospects you're going to need to reach out to in order to do that. And this is this percentage here. Yeah, so Rowan, how does that, how does that translate into dials, completed number of leads? I don't know for you. So that's something you need to figure out. So if you need to do 80 per week, think about the number of activities. So sequencing, this is something we talk about in the boot camp that I'd be able to help you with a little bit more. So fit doesn't stand for everything, anything in particular, Charlotte. Fit calls is like an introductory call. So think of it like if you sent someone a cold email and you said, hey, I want to meet with you, it would be the first meeting you do with them. Usually these calls are 15 to 30 minutes, and it's to see if you guys are a good fit. Yeah, no problem, Charlotte. So 80 per week, let's say. And then typically what we would do is you would have 5 activities per prospect per week. So that would be like 400 activities. So this would be like for a BDR, let's say. So someone that's only doing prospecting. So if you did 5 activities per prospect per week, that would be 400 activities, which is 80 per day. Pretty doable, actually, because some of those would be automated. Ronan, that help you out, man? Good to go? Okay, so James, I don't know if, James, you want to hit me in the chat? Are you still on the call? Just give me a yes in the chat because you asked a question. Cool. So James, you asked, any suggestions for triple confirm for restaurant owners since a lot of times they can't access email right then to confirm on phone? So what you can do, James, is say, hey, so I'm about to send you a calendar invite with all of the details. I know you're probably running around here since you run a restaurant. Do you have email on your phone by chance that you could open up and just confirm the calendar invite real quick? Or do you have access to your calendar on your phone? You could confirm that invite real quick just to make sure you got it. So James, that's what I would do. I would go the mobile route. So, hey, you got a couple seconds here? I know we're talking on the phone, but do you mind answering or opening up your phone and just open up the calendar real quick to make sure that invite went through and then confirming it real quick? Hey, and not everyone's going to want to confirm the invite with you over the call. So keep that in mind too. There you go. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so Louisa, 5 activities per prospect. That would look something like this. So here's the sequencing structure. Would look something like this. So on a weekly basis, you would do something that looks a lot like this. You guys get to see my chicken scratch here. So you would do phone, email, and then LinkedIn on day 1. And then day 3, you would do phone, email. So you do what I call a triple touch here. So you call the person. If you get their voicemail, you leave a voicemail and say, hey, I'm about to send you an email. And then you send a LinkedIn connection request. So day 1, you get 3 touches right there, 3 activities. Day 3, you do phone and email. You call, you don't leave a voicemail usually, and then you send a follow-up email that says any thoughts, question mark. Yeah, you bet, Louisa. So that's your 5 activities per week per prospect. Thank you, Grace. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, so you connect with someone that doesn't know you. Yeah, that's what cold prospecting is all about, Pascal. Right? This whole system is about how do you start a conversation with someone that doesn't know who you are, and they might know your company by chance, but that doesn't know who you are. Oh, but on LinkedIn, yeah, definitely on LinkedIn. Yep. Yeah, thanks for coming on, Louisa. We'll see ya. Um, yeah, Ronit, I'm not quite sure I know what you're asking for, Ronit. Maybe send me an email. You have my email address afterwards. Send me an email and I'll do my best to help you out. Okay. Okay. Anyone else have any other questions? Anything like that? Yeah. What's my take on videos? Um, my video take on videos, Tanvi, is that you definitely need to send them. I'm going to send you something here. I'm going to drop this into the chat for you. I actually have a whole guide that I put together on video. So Tanvi, and anyone else that's interested in video, why don't you check out that guide? There's a full run through on how to use video and all that good stuff. Okay. Yeah, Pascal, do you know how many accept on LinkedIn that way? You're looking for like a 30 to 40% acceptance rate to your LinkedIn invites. Okay, cool. All right, everyone. Do I add notes, Seb? Yes, definitely add notes. I do have a whole bunch of stuff on LinkedIn, but one thing I would recommend doing if you guys aren't already doing this, and this might be, kind of meta, but I talk a lot about how to prospect on LinkedIn on my LinkedIn post. So make sure to check that out. I dropped my LinkedIn profile in there. I'd love to connect with all of you guys. Cool. Thank you, Lyle. Yeah, bite-sized nuggets. Cool. Hey, awesome, everyone. Hey, really, really glad that you guys took an hour plus out of your day to hang out with me here. So I hope everything was informative today and you got some good stuff out of it. And I hope to see some of you guys, in the boot camp. So appreciate your time today, and we'll see you guys soon. Have a good rest of your week. See ya.